So I don't recall I think his name is Representative Barr, if I'm not mistaken. So he came out last night at the RNC to basically gin up support for the state of Israel. Let's listen to what the RNC crowd had to, what their reaction was to being pro-Israel. It's interesting.
Here at the Republican convention, we proudly and loudly stand with Israel.
Even in this one shot right here, it's not a universal acclaim by any stretch. That's important.
This election is a critical moment for the American Jewish community and for Israel. This is...
Yeah, you're damn right it is. It is. And guess what? You're losing.
This is our chance to continue the incredible pro-Israel legacy of the most pro-Israel president in history, Donald J. Trump.
That flag, for many people now, represents hate. It's like the equivalent of seeing a Nazi flag. Congratulations, you did it to yourself. But again, that's the superiority complex that so many in this country tend to have. But the good news is that there is an ever-growing movement within the GOP to push this shit out. And that's the part of the GOP that we should celebrate. Because there is a very strong Ron Paul, libertarian, anti-war contingent of people that have infiltrated the party, and they don't want this anymore. So even if you listen to the crowd, and the crowd is pretty full, they're not, some of them are on board with this for sure. Let's not pretend like they're not. And there is certainly more, obviously when it comes to Christian Zionists in particular, they are knee deep in the GOP, not in the Democratic Party. So there is still that element that we're dealing with. But it's changing. I just think the reaction from the audience speaks volumes. But these jackasses with this flag, this is the United States of America, not the United States of Israel. Last I checked.
President Trump, among his many accomplishments, many of which they said couldn't be done, but he did it. He moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem,
which only led to more death and destruction. Fact. One of the stupidest things Trump did in his presidency. And of course, Biden would not move the embassy back to Tel Aviv because they both agree, or both party apparatuses agree. And since all the neocons have found their way into the Democratic Party, of course they're going to be fine with it.
They said it couldn't be done, but he weakened the Iranian regime. They said it couldn't be done, but he delivered the historic Abraham Accords, bringing us closer to peace in the Middle East. With President Trump, we will repair and rebuild the U.S.-Israel relationship that has deteriorated after 4 disastrous years under President Biden.
This is when you know that all of this is bullshit, because there is nothing that Trump, aside from maybe condoning the dropping of a nuclear bomb, could have done more to support the genocide of the Palestinian people on behalf of Israel than Joe Biden did during his presidency. So this idea that you're at this convention and you're talking about how disastrous our relationship with Israel has gotten, you're goddamn right it's gotten disastrous, because our government has gone right along with their genocide. This son of a bitch, I swear to God, they're so disconnected from reality. And I got to give, like I said, an ounce of credit to that crowd. They were not fully on board with the bullshit. That's good. We should be grateful for that. We should be grateful that that crowd was not overwhelmingly pro-Israel, because that's how you pull it back. You got to do something. I got to tell you, there They're very likely not going to talk about this at the DNC a month from now. However, there's very little, if anything, that I would put past anybody. But this is remarkable that the reaction is not what they probably anticipated. And that's a good thing.
Now, today, 9 months after the historic Hamas attacks, shockingly, President Biden is still withholding critical arms that Israel needs to defend itself. Boo.
Sorry, got to order.
America must stand with Israel and against the terrorists, especially Iran.
There is nothing that makes me more sick than when somebody intertwines the American flag and the Israel flag. And it's always white supremacists that do that shit. Always. Seriously, I mean this. F anybody who ties the American flag to the Israel flag. We are not the same country. We do not share the same values. You may think that we do, but Israel does not speak for America. Perhaps the the colonizing project may speak, but not for me. And never will. That flag is an abomination as far as I'm concerned. We must stop tying ourselves like this. It serves nothing and only seeks to hurt us further.
We must stand with the Israeli people. Now, my message here today to the Jewish community is clear. There is only one pro-Israel party, and it's the Republican Party. And here at home, under Donald Trump, we will put a stop.
Seems pretty subdued to me. That ain't getting the crowd excited, and it shouldn't. Now, as I said, don't get me wrong. There is still a very healthy contingent of pro-Israel Zionists in both parties, but especially in the GOP. There is no getting around that. We'd be foolish to pretend like it's not the case. But it is the case. And so because of that, we are now faced with what is ultimately going to come of this. Because the one thing I do believe about Trump, he's going to go where things intend to go. If the people do not want this, then he's not going to fight against it. You know, there are times where he's pushed back on certain things, but for the most part, he follows his crowd, the MAGA base. And for the most part, that libertarian anti-war sentiment within that movement has grown exponentially. It really has. It's one thing to object to what's going on in Ukraine, but when a healthy number, especially on the right, are rejecting Israel, that's very powerful.